I want to talk about something from oil from last week. It was the 9th, not the 11th. The 11th, sort of trades where they don't get to your target. And how you can sort of manage those, where what I'll talk about is like trying to be a bit on a more of a passive way, and then try and let the trade like happen, etc. But then it doesn't seem to happen the way you think it would, or it doesn't evolve. Even if you go on side, X amount on how you can sort of manage it, and maybe where you went wrong. Because like, if I go through this, I didn't really do anything wrong. The trade just never really developed, even though you go, I think it was like 40 ticks on side. The trade never really happened, and it was just quite something like interesting to talk about. And it's quite sort of a little bit of a different way, and sometimes it can be quite frustrating. But I just thought it'd be quite good to talk about. It's a breakout, but with a passive entry. But I want to talk about the structure first, and sort of get into that before anything else, and show you sort of what the idea was. I don't know why this takes ages to go down. Ages. But yeah, it's just sort of the structure I really liked. So I'll start with the profiles, and I'll explain sort of what I mean by my terrible handwriting. But what the sort of idea was, is that this day here was the OPEC day, followed by another sort of up day following on from that open from down here, and then you sort of got this like selling day, as I've called it, and it's very stretched. So you've had to try up the opens around here, you've tried up, and then you've come back down, you've created a horrendous bottom, also followed by this other horrendous one down here. So you've got not really great structure for the downside. But what usually you're going to get from this day, which is the day we're talking about, is you're probably most likely going to bounce up, and sort of you're going to feel, the stretch day out and sort of balance it out a little bit. So that was the sort of idea that it can happen, it can fill in and balance out. And then this can create some nice structure to then, offer back down. As I put here, you've got this little like cave where you can trade back through. So that was the sort of idea I had. And you've seen these types of moves where you get sort of up and you sort of get like a little top, etc. To be honest, I do put like a head and shoulders in this, but it's a very rubbish one. And that was a sort of the idea that was coming into it as well. But I was sort of trying to piece this together with, a couple poor bottoms. You tried to go higher, you failed. You've closed really, weak on the day from, testing up and closing down here, because you ended up with sort of, that type of candle in the end. So I'm really trying to piece this idea together, and then throughout the day, then you just try and develop it into it. It ended up pretty much not working. I felt like it was going to do. Price action was really good. And now I'll quickly go to what the hour looks like, and then I'll go into what a 15, because 15 looks a bit nicer. So this is that OPEC day where you got the breakthrough, those highs. So what the idea really was is that you've got this support here on top of the high. So really you was looking for this break of this head and shoulders. I mean, this is not the very nicest one. Also, you got that gap up on the week, and then that rolled over the head and shoulders. Again, I was trying to piece this all together with trying to put, much more detail involved with head and shoulders, this little support that you've got from these areas. And then you're trying to then, what I'm thinking of, you've got then this like little head and shoulders, the gap up that's failed. So you're just trying to piece it together. And I really felt like trading back to this point and this point after you've had a little auction block here into this area is a very key sort of place that you can just revisit. I don't know what. I don't know I can do that. Right, 15. So then this is the 15 minute. Adding in a little bit more of the, so I was just going into lower time frame to find like these pockets that you could execute from, not necessarily from a 15 minute, but it creates a little bit more that you can see. So these circles that I've got, you've got like the support of this little block here. So these ones, so you've got some kind of bounce support. There is some kind of buying involved before you can try and then get the, even though you've tested in, that's not a problem. You can then like break through, etc. And you're looking for the target. I mean, the target, it's only 80 ticks. I mean, it's not, it's a very good move. I really felt like that was the sort of play, especially when the trade starts to look like it's going to, be involved, etc. And it looks, and that's the bottom bit. Yeah, so if I quickly go into what the, just go to a 5. And this is something that throughout the year I want to get better at. This is the lower time frame. So this is just the 5 minute, which you've got, let's say, double top at the top, comes down, holds the low as it come off. Again, another bit of support on this line. Again, pulls back, holds. And I'm just noticing this at the time of the day. You let this happen, really, because what I'm trying to think of is where's the right place to execute and try and get in the move at the right time, rather than, for me, you're sort of preempting it up here. I feel like this zone where I got in is better, because once you really get through here, you'd at least expect it to test the low at least. That's the way I sort of thought about it. So this was the place I got in here. And then you're looking for that move, and you feel like once you're through the low, it takes, I think that point here is like the trend line. So that happens. So you're sort of preempting the trend line break, which again adds to the conviction once it breaks. The volume does slightly pick up in this area as well, unlike this area where you're playing for sort of the momentum to pick up, etc. And then last, or nearly the last slide, and then you zoom into the 1 minute, and then this is what you look at on the 1 minute. So you've got this range where you've held those lows, you're looking for a pullback to sort of these. Can you then hold them, which you do? And then also then it's like the break of the trend. I just want to show you this little point of execution in here, and you'll see when I do it, I do pull the offer at one point, because I'm not the great passive entry sort of, trader, should we say. I really struggle to be passive, but for me it was good to be involved, etc., understanding what the price action wants. And then you get this little like 1 minute range that I've got in the red box, and once you break out of that, you do get the unwind. So I just want to show you this point in here, and possibly I'll just show you this last piece of the break of the low. And again, what you do get, the delta does try and make a new low. Again, you'll see that the volume picks up, and again on like the breaks of lows, which is what you want. It just never sustained the break, and I felt like the next time it came down and it didn't break either. And then last bit, I just want to show you what the footprint looks like. So this is what the 10 looks like. Again, on the pullback, you got this, it's at 2,500. So this is what you can look at. So this is where you go from, like, for me, a 20 tick into a 10 when it gets a little bit too much, where the 20 gets too much. But this is sort of your passive entry, and that's the break point. And again, pull back, and then it goes. So it's just leaning on sort of what this little block does here. I think I got involved sort of in this one, which is quite nice. So just trying to build it together. And then this is quickly what the 20 looks like. So this is really nice little block here, holds the low just like it does. You know, this absorption you get first fails, and then you get that sort of extension move down. The extension move down. So that's sort of what you're looking at. And again, it's about 7,000 in there. And then once you break out, it unravels. And these are something that I really do like. You can play the aggressive move, which again, once you review these types of moves, etc., or any type of move, you can look to where you can possibly add into trades. And like the break of that 1 minute structure was probably the best. Just put this in. So I'm going to show you from sort of just before I get involved, and just so we can see the price action of it coming off. And you'll probably see me, I think, pull the first one. So all you need to focus on is just this, the far left ladder, and you just sort of, what I was really trying to look for is sorry, this is a bit after, but I do actually pull it prior to this. And what I was really looking for is sort of the quick offer down, and really you want the quick offer down to then sort of, you want it to hold. And sort of the prices we were sort of trading, I think it was around this area, as you'll see. It's just sort of around 61, 62. It's quite hard because for me also, I can't just leave an offer. I have to see how it trades. I can't just then, you know, I do think about getting out because I've literally got filled and it goes straight up. So this is where I get very unsure with trying to be passive. As you can see, I literally got filled and it's just straight line back up. But what you've got that little range that you've got involved, and you then have to watch this price action at the top where, how does it reload? So like we did there, you just reloaded straight to back from 50 to 50. And again, you want to see how it trades at the top side. So as you can see, it doesn't trade any 74s. It's not trading anything into the 74s there. Then it offers, reloads to 30, then 30 again, then it trades back up, then 70 lots there, which is quite key. That gets traded. But then the sellers then come back in again, you know, another 50, 60 lots at 73s. So they're the sort of things you want to be looking for, because then you get that offer back down. And then what also then you want to happen, you want to see how it breaks, comes back down here, because you've got a buyer here and a seller here, and all you're doing is just rotating in between. So those little pieces of price action where even though you've got that 70 lot got taken, it just reloaded and then offered again. So now, for me, I think it was around 63s, 62s. You want to then see just nice clean break, which is what you've got here. Now this is where the places you then can like add into trades, because you've seen what you've seen at the top. You've got a nice little 1 minute structure. You can play the break like we did. It's very easily offered. The buyer's not there anymore. You know, you've got the structure you can lean on. You've sort of got 10 ticks risk at the top. So there's, you know, how I sort of, and you can sort of shows necessarily the nerves that I have of trying to trade passively. I do really sort of struggle. It's something that I don't have that like real high conviction type of, should we say, idea, or not idea, but I just struggle with that. So if we watch them sort of here and how we sort of break the low. So the key point is from here, once you sort of break through that, is how then we auction down, and the way you break the low. If you get a nice bit of momentum, because then this here is the trend line bottom, and I always struggle. I always get caught out with trying to sell trend line. So I was trying to look for another way to execute, and you can sort of see here the momentum that it comes through. And sometimes it may bounce, but you're looking for the momentum to continue. As you saw it was like 3 or so minutes of sort of those 3 to 4 minutes of straight line, and you're looking for a nice break of the low. I know you've got that auction block once you get in here that you can trade through back to that support area. So you can see the price and price action pick up quite quickly. And that's exactly what you want to see as well once you're approaching the low, that people are trying to buy the trend line as well. Get out of something, again, something that, you know, something also that I've done quite a lot recently is gone on side. I know it's sort of 30 ticks-ish, but I've done this a lot recently, is that I get on side and I'm not taking out anything. So I thought better, you know, try and make sure I'm understanding the right way to like get out the trade, when really the problem is I shouldn't have actually got out of anything because I'm not being proven wrong or at all. And you could have been adding. So the momentum and the way the offer just starts to stick is great. You've got 80 lots on the lows. You're just trying to add into sort of when you're in the trade to talk yourself into what's going correct. I shouldn't have really covered anything, but I've only got out of one. And the price action felt like the beginning of sort of last year. The way it sort of offered was much nice and clean. Again, I've covered two because we don't seem to break the low. And again, this sometimes comes with my sort of impatience at times. You know, you've gone 30 ticks on the side, you're just looking for that type, a little bit more. And again, you just seem to get some kind of buyer until they're sort of, you know, finished out of the way. Again, you just want to see the sort of momentum try and, you know, because the volume picked up, as you could see. And the sort of target, I think, was around the 80s, I believe. So again, it's a good target to look at. I think as I'd probably, yeah. So another sort of 60 ticks or so, no, 40 ticks. So again, this really felt quite confident, but again, there's ways that you can, the ways that I've traded this, you could have traded it much better, having much clearer. It's having the more self-belief, I think, in this moment of trying to understand the passive way of looking at it. So the way that, again, for sort of like improvements for myself and how for me to be more comfortable in those areas and trying to be passive, it's something that I do personally struggle with, or fading opportunities is something that I'm not very, very good at. Like today, I tried to sell oil, but I sold it too early before it made the high, and then it sort of rolled over. That was something I was looking at like today, and you lose money because you've done it too early. So that can be quite frustrating, and sometimes being passive, I feel like that sort of way. Or I'm going to be too early, too late. I give maybe too much room. But, you know, it's again understanding the way you want to execute the trade. So you go into like the lower time frame, exactly what I did and what I talked through, and you try and find that type of structure that you like. You know, and again, you've got to decide whether you've got to be passive or aggressive on these. So really, that the first point to execute, you can be a bit more passive. But then that second one where it breaks out that little 1 minute zone, then you've got to tell yourself to, you know, be aggressive and, you know, making sure you clip the low because of the change of the price action when it breaks through. These are things that, again, I do struggle with, you know, being able to trade these little tiny lower time frames and be more aggressive. That sometimes I do struggle with. Sometimes obviously it looks like I'm not, because I can, you know, click quite a lot into trades, and as we've seen before, multiple, like smashing highs and smashing lows. But again, it's just having that clear way you want to execute and make sure you tell yourself that's okay and that's how you should be doing it. And again, having the clear targets. So something I've got really well at the moment is I have clear targets, and I'm willing to then, you know, hold the trade. And that can reduce like the panic you have when you've got a target, say you sell here and your target is say 100 ticks, and you go onside 50 ticks and it does this. You're okay that. Also, one other thing just reminded me is that, you know, your target is down here, so you know you can stomach this pullback because you've executed in sort of the right place. you know, even if it's range and you sell the top, you're being more passive, you can stomach the pullback if you're playing that momentum. You're playing that sort of momentum move. So, and also one last thing that just reminded me of was when it comes to sort of holding your trades, also is that having the clear targets, but understanding on what could happen in between. If it's momentum, you want to see, you know, the momentum keep playing, or if there's a little pullback, understanding where that pullback could be. And again, it goes to understanding how you want to execute at the beginning. Again, like yesterday's oil move, how you had to execute was more this way than passive. But you had to tell yourself that was okay, and that's something I didn't do because you should have been this, and I wasn't. And then what can happen in between that same sort of scenario of how big your target, the bigger your targets, obviously, sometimes you're not always going to get there. So sometimes you want to have a strategy of getting out of something. One of my strengths is now is holding the size a long way, and that's something I did over the Fed as well, which didn't come out in a positive way at all. But again, exiting also the way you've got to understand how the market's trading, and selling lows doesn't always work. You've got to have the right environment for that, and again, understand the price action, the way the market's moving as well. So as you can see, that oil was quite rangy on the day, but it gave you a good 5-minute structure, and selling lows wasn't really the way to do it. It was, it was just doing this on the way down. So break like this. It looks really easy. Let's sell here, let's sell here. I don't think that's the best way. I think it's just trying to be a bit more passive. It gave you the right structure. You can be a bit more passive on that front. So it's just a few little points there of how to understand which passive or aggressive way you want to execute the trade, the lower time frame structure to execute, clear targets, which I had a very clear target. It can help you then hold the trades. It reduces the panic when you get a little pullback or something like that, because if you don't know where your target is, you're going to more panic with your 30 ticks on side. You don't have a necessary target, or you think it can stop here, this and that. You get out for 30 ticks and it goes another 100, where you can have, let's say, a very clear target of 100 ticks, and you're not worried about that being on side 30. And again, it brings on more experience for holding in the longer term. And again, just understanding that correct part of price action.
If you find this video interesting, if you want to go deep into the Axia training method and how our trading team of 7-figure traders develop setups and strategies, and how they learn to build the most profitable trades across all market environments, then join me in this workshop. Now, in this workshop, you're going to learn 3 powerful steps we use to train all our traders on both our London and our Poland trading desks to help build incredible levels of consistency. How to predictably understand which setups work and which don't. You're going to learn our 2 main strategies for how we perfect our trade timing before we enter every single trade. You're going to learn the VEL concept, which is our one and only technique we use to leverage our largest trades. You'll also learn how to avoid trading setups that don't work, how to avoid those large losses, and our main method we use to identify them that saves our traders significant amounts of capital. Finally, you will learn how our traders use the power of network learning to find market patterns quicker than ever before, so you shortcut that learning curve. In the workshop, we want to program your awareness of elite performance, to program your ability to choose the right setups, and program your ability to be a consistent trader. So the trades that you execute become more simple and clearer. And I can tell you this, you'll never see the markets the same again. You'll never look at the markets with a narrow view of getting lost in all the noise and confusion. You'll take your first step towards a deep edge market awareness. I cannot wait for you to join me in this workshop. And I think you're in for a massive paradigm shift in your understanding of how to develop as a trader.